So, test and welcome everybody. Welcome my fellow Patreons. And welcome to this December Patreon. Um at this time, when this video will be released, it's the 24th of December. And I hope you are with your family or friends, etc. And you're having a good Christmas time to those who celebrate it. And after the 24th and maybe on the 24th, you can watch this tutorial. So yeah, we will do some more of an experimental, I say, style frame knitting stuff in this tutorial. So we are really going to do a more, how can I say this, a more random or R&D approach setup with a lot of possibilities, but of course you need to figure them out over time. And I will show you a few setups, or we will create a few iterations and do some lighting and shading. Here are some frames, and here's currently one other one rendering here. Make that a little bit bigger. And yeah, let me just show you something. I did a lot of R&D for the December month, but I think that would be a really nice thing to do. Those will be released in the future. For example, it's I think this is a animated knitting setup. This is animated hair, kind of knitting. Then there's also fluid stuff with UV transferring, viscosity, etc. So yeah, I've got a few here that I would like to toggle, or to go over with you all in the future. But I think that's currently like a nice setup to play with. And I think you can get really nice frames out of that. Especially I really like, of course I like all of them, but I really like that one. This reminds me of a vein of the human body a little bit. And I think someone on Twitter told that was an abstract honeycomb. I think that's also pretty cool. So yeah, you can, of course, definitely, it's really subjective. But yeah, I'm calling it experimental knitting or fabric. I think that's a pretty okayish term. And of course you can advance that and make it your own. So let's get started. Let me just get that out of the way here, and we will start with the first one because I think that's like cool one to tackle. That was also a growing setup. We can do that in sure. So the setup is pretty simple, and that's a cool thing because you then can iterate really fast. So what we will start is basically with a line, sweeping that, and so on. So line, sweep, sweep again, and then the magic is basically a volume velocity from volumes. And we will generate those volume trails. And then we will resample them, we will curve view them, and yeah, then we will render them. And what I also did, I think here's also set up with with a pilot growth setup to then like get those to a nice animation, so we can also do that in the future. So let's have a look. Okay, let's get started. And the cool thing is we can then iterate further. What I also want to do, I want to play a little bit with the guide process, with basically the grooming tools. But the grooming tools in Houdini are really nice for fabric, etc. Or knitting, abstract stuff. Okay, cool. So let's get started. First of all, what I want to do for the ad setup, let's just rebuild it. I want to place a line here. And you can see, wait, let me just get that here. Let's just clone that quickly. You can see we've got a line here, then a resample and so on. So let's just rebuild that. And you can also see enumerate if you want to loop, for example, for each piece. That's also, oh, we can also do that, right? Okay, cool. Let's get started. Let's just get this line to a length of 2, for example. And then let's get started with a resample. So the resample will take the line as an input and basically cut it or adding new points. So the line will get a higher resolution. And what we can do, we can adjust that with the length. And what I also want to do, I want to add the curve view attribute. And when you press on information here, press the curve view, you will get a visualizer. And it's basically from 0 to 1. You can also go to your geometry spreadsheet and you can see we've got a point attribute. So basically sitting on those points, and it got a value from 0, and when you scroll down to 1. And the cool thing is we can play with that value. We can use it for masking, for animation. We can use it later in Redshift for rendering. So that's pretty powerful. After that, we can bend it, for example. Let's bend our curve a little bit. Let's get in the side view here and set the capture point. And what you can do if you want to be really precise, you can get the magnetic point snapping on and just snap it from 0 to 1. So basically from the points, from point to point, and now you can, yeah, basically play with your curve. That's also pretty cool for animation. After that, I want to sweep it. And with the sweep, I want to introduce more segments, basically. So what I want to do, I want to go to round cube here. And what you then can do, what is pretty cool, with the round cube, you can go on, for example, columns. And now you will only output the columns of the sweep. Of course, you can go on, for example, we got now the round tube. You can go on square tube. It would be also really interesting to see the results of that. And of course, you can input your own cross section. So what you could do, really fast, you can get a circle here. Type that in there. Be your second section here. At the viewport. If you scale the uniform, will scale down. Now you can add divisions, for example. You could also do like a triangle. Or of course, if you add more divisions, you'll get closer to the circle. So you can also input your own shape. Or what you also could do is get in the front viewport. Basically free on your, just press free on your keyboard. And what you then can do, you can get a curve. And you can basically draw a curve. So Let's get a here. Let's go on grid snap. And now you can basically draw your cross section. So that's pretty cool. So what we could do, I don't know, this is currently pretty random. So let's do that. And that could be then a really abstract example, of course. Should I go here or here? Let's go here. For knitting. So when we got that, let's just get the curve and resample. And then you could get that into here. And you got yourself something like this as a cross section. Of course, what you then can do, you can scale it. And I think that could get really complex in a knitting effect. So you can use, for example, own custom cross section. Let's go back and use the normal round tube here. And what I want to do, I want to enumerate it. If you want to go for a loop, for example, also do that. Just place that down, or you can get a connectivity. And then again, what I want to do, I want to resample it a little bit to just get a little bit more control here. If I want to make the resolution higher or lower, let's go to 0.015. And after that, I want a second sweep. And with the second sweep, I want the round tube again, columns, and I want to get a radius down here so they just like barely touch. Let's go for the quad to just visualize it a little bit better if you get into sections or not. So for example, a scale like that. And now I want maybe let's go 11. And I want to scale it a little bit down. Then I want to switch between to the columns and I want to apply a few full twists. Thing like that. Cool. After that, let's place a null here. That will be our input for velocity, because we will work the velocity for volume curves. And after that, I want to create a velocity volume, or basically volume. So I want to get a box, and what I want to do, I want to create a VDB from polygons, set that to density. But before, let's do a match size. I forgot that on that setup. Match size. Because what I want to do in all those setups to keep them as fast as possible. And when you got a different size and you need to scale that down again and again, if you then iterate again, for example, that can cost a little bit of time. And just place a match size, and there will be no hassle with just the volume, voxel size, etc. So I want to drop down a VDB from polygons. The density 0.01. Now we've got a volume here with density with 51,000 or roughly 51,000 voxels. And now what we need to get is our points. for our curves. And we need the, where is it? The volume velocity from curves. And this needs basically 2 inputs. Can go for 3, of course, if you want to add the surface. And what I want to do here is to connect the volume to the volume and the curves to our input curves. And I want to get match reference volume. So it will match the voxel size from our reference volume. And then you can also play with the smooth velocities, but let's just have a look on that later. So then I want to just visualize it, and that's basically the magic. The magic basically happens all here to get up with a nice collective, more uniform geometry that then will create a velocity flow that looks something like that you want. In my case, like maybe fabric or knitting structures. So let's get a volume trail here. And with our volume trail, we've got, for example, for example, the bottom visualize velocity. And of course you can keep that on, but what I want to do for that setup, I want to get a resample. And I want to resample each segment and just get the curve view, so we can just visualize the curve view. Then those are way less points, so we pump that up, and you've got something. So this looks already pretty cool. What you then can do, you can play around with your scatter node. For example, with the relax iterations. What you also can do, what I like, let's go to the sweep and just make one. And you then can already see you will get really nice repetitive structures in here. Let's just pump that up. For example, 2, 3, 4. And now let's get that more resolution. That looks way better. Cool. Okay, let's go here and do a little bit more on that one. Let's make 1 or 2 twists on that. We get like a twist in its twist, and like already like that simple sweeps structure already looks pretty cool. When you repeat that again and again, it can look pretty nice, I think. And let's go for that renderer. I want a little bit more bending. Of course you can make a circle, but why not use 2 bends? And what I want to do, get on that bend, oops, roughly I want to get the Z axis, and it's way too small. Let's get it like that. And let's go up vector. to just get like a interesting or more interesting shape. Put that in our sweep, and the cool thing is what you also can do, you can apply a given scale onto your sweep. Scale that was a little bit smaller. That. Oh, that looks nice. I like that. I like that. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Okay, now we can use those. And what I want to do, I want to add one more node, like a point warp here. And let's just make, you can also do that in Vex. I will just do it quickly in warps. Just bind in the curve view and bind export as p-scale. And let's get a ramp in here on spline ramp, so we can adjust our scale of our individual segments later. And we need a multiply. Should just get a global multiplier and a parameter, and we can call that parameter global underscore scale, for example. Now I just need to look up here. So for that example, I used 0.0005, and then you can go for scale. You can of course scale it down to 0, and that's basically it for like the main setup. Then what I did here, I did some R&D on light. So let's get a fourth here. Disable that. And camera number 4. Let's get that to a nice position and disable. I'm currently in square aspect ratio. Of course, you can change that. Oh wait, am I in square? Yes, I'm. Because I had that already for Instagram stories, so you can make like 2 squares in your story. It's just a camera. And then of course what I did, I created a little light here with a little gobo, basically based lighting. And then what you need to check on your geometry, go on strands and then render object as strands, go on cylinder, on max tessellation. You can make that basically disable it if you got also a pretty good resolution on your splines. And then global scale multiplier on 1, and you can ignore it and just make a linear scale with the global scale multiplier, or you will import your p-scale attribute and then you can work with that. Got plenty of time. Let's do a new material. Already did some here. So that will be our RP material. What I want to do, I want to get or import the curve view as an attribute. So color data, type in curve view, and then you will import your values that are sitting on our geometry. In this case, our curve view here. We'll import that, and for example, we can remap that as a color. type that into base color. And let's just leave it as it is currently, and then we can adjust it. So let's go into the camera. Let's go into light. Let's just get a top light here. I don't know how that will look, but let's give it a shot. That will be. And let's adjust the focus. Already looks not that bad in monochrome, or basically black and white. And what we then can do now, we can remap that to specific colors. And that's basically the beauty of it, because you really get pretty nice gradients, etc. So let's do a custom one. Let's refresh our window here. And let's do a little bit of look dev. Of course, what you then can do, we can do that in a second. I will just show you that for now. Let's go for, first of all, let's do a little bit of a different lighting setup. So I'm still in the lighting here, and you can see here's our camera. That would be like a heavy backlight, which is also pretty cool, like a rim light. Let's go for yeah, I like that. So I like that, for example, and what you could do, you could add a flag. So a flag in photography is basically a light blocker. You could add a geo on top of here to block some of that light here up. Or just move your light a little bit down, but I really like that currently. And what I want to do then, let's just dive in here and play with our gradient. What I really like is those orange kind feeling mixed with bluish tones. Let's go for orange and red. Let's desaturate that heavily. And I want to introduce a little bit of white. The orange. So this is now not like the tricky thing, but there are really a lot of possibilities to then shade something like that. And of course, be experimental. Go for that desaturated blue tone and move it close to the orange. Let's just move it behind it to get that really little accent here. This bluish tone. And what I want to do, I want to move the camera like that. That looks like a knot. Get a focus in here. Something like that. I don't like that. Let's get back. I like that a little bit more here. Nice. Okay, that's better. And now if you're like happy with that, you can of course do another iteration. Or let's look at my iteration. Basically the same one. I did like a few here. Some more colorful, some less colorful. course you can play with gradients, etc. But what I also really like to do is to just get a simple standard grayish or white material. What I also like to get more of a black material and to increase the roughness a little bit. So it looks like carbon fiber. And the cool thing is what you also can do, what I also tried out, is get a transmission up and you get this like really fancy looking, yeah, basically glass, fiberglass wall kind of feeling. And what I want to do now is to dive back in our setup. And what you can do, what I also did in a few setups, is to just raise them here. Like, let's get so we can quickly switch between those. That was 20,000. And what I want to do, I want to get after that here, I want to get another sweep and get a round tube, and of course just scale them down. And what I want to do, I want to apply the scale along the curve here to like more of a hill. But I don't want to scale it to 0 maybe. Let's go 0.25 on each side. And now what we can do, here are a few intersecting, but maybe that's not big of a hassle. And we can rotate them again. And now we are really getting something. Let's raise them up to 850 to get a little bit more volume out of that. And let's just restart our camera. Oh yes, I like that. So of course there are like a lot of options to basically deal with that. And after that, let's just do one more thing. Maybe we can do like more of a grayish color. And of course then you can see we don't got enough resolution on those strings here. So let's do that. And of course you can use that here. Just refresh our render window. Oh, that's looking cool. That reminds me heavily of Flyknit from Nike, I think. Okay, let's just do the standard material here again in like a desaturated bluish tone, and then I want to get up the resolution. Yeah, that's way better. 2 million easy. And of course Redshift can really handle a lot of good geometry. Render view. Where are you? My render view is gone. Oh, and of course what we also can do, can do some tutorials in the future with Octane if you want to do that. Currently also purchased it for smaller studios, client work, personal work, etc. That's looking really, I like that. That's looking cool. And of course, the cool thing is because of the higher volume, you will get a much denser feeling for that. And now you could wrap that up in a simple animation with mobs, for example. We can do that in future. Plus proxy offset, mask growth, proxy instancing, and you got yourself, I think, a pretty cool knitting setup. Okay, that's one of the things. And what I also want to do, let's do another one. Just get that out of here. And I want to do more like a flat thing. So what I want to do, I want to keep our match size. I want to basically delete all of that. So now we can place down a grid. I also did that. Yeah, here, right. I want to place down a grid. And let's use our grid points. Oh, I already got a grid to copy the points a given geometry, for example. So we've got our grid on the second input, and on that input I used the spiral or the lab spiral and just copy those onto our grid. Now what we can do it with a wrangle, or you can do that with WOPs, or let's get a random point scale, the basic code. You can also do that with attributed randomize and not the color, the scale. Custom ramp, fire it in here, and got yourself a ramp to roll it, and you got your seed. That's also an option. Let's make it not too big. And what I want to do, I want to transform each spiral here a little bit. I think that was the honeycomb-like thing. And the cool thing is you can then put that inside here and just have a look how that will turn out. So this is currently, yeah, maybe not so interesting. So what I want to do, I want to copy and transform the spiral, but copied curves, of course you can also do that, to give it more depth. So let's give that. Let's go like, I don't know, rule of odds, let's go for 9. And you could also rotate that. I never did that. I don't know what will there now, because I never rotate. I never rotated on a copy and transform spirals. It's like the most basic idea. And let's get the distance. So they barely touch other iteration. Let's get more points. Let's get those 20,000. Yes. Oh, that's nice. Okay, but we need more resolution. Okay, that's plenty of resolution. And of course, then you can pipe that into the sweep. But for now, let's just have a look how that will look. And I think that's let's make one light setup. And I think that's a pretty cool setup to just play with and to get curious about new input shapes, etc. So we got our light, we've got our camera. And what I did for the honeycomb thing, I just bended it a little bit after the process. So always keep that basically in mind. because sometimes in motion there are like a lot of questions. How did you get that form after the simulation, for example? Oh, we just bended it. So keep that in mind, that you can always use certain tools or certain nodes after your simulation, for example. Okay, that looks also pretty. Let's go for another kind of spec. Get the edge in here. Or maybe like an overview. I think an overview would be nice, but let's do one more thing. Let's do one more thing. I want to do groom tools. What we then can do is to get like the guide groom and frizz. We can just frizz them a little bit. So for example, like that, of course, let's have a look how that will look. That's a little bit of our organized entropy chaos. Let's have a look how that will look. I think it will load a little bit. Okay, it's fairly quickly. Or it looks like some kind of wall. Okay, now we're going. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Of course, it's like really random. But we don't got, or I can currently not recognize any repetitive pattern, which is pretty cool. Oh, I like that. That's nice. Okay, let's go, because what I wanted to do is to go a little bit down with the frequency, and especially with the amplitude. Let's go 25 and 215 to just get a little bit randomness in there. But of course, you can also see other more random approach could also work for you. I think I did that on that a little bit of, but like minor, really minor randomness. So that will load again. Yeah, that looks cool. I like that. So it's a little bit more rough and basically not so perfect. Oh, we need to change the light maybe. Here we got a camera from basically top. Can art direct. You could also go, for example, for a flat look, of course, but I think that looks that nice. You could go for like a rim light. It's also, I would go for side light. And then let's get our, I think we need to refresh it one more time. And we are here. That looks cool. Maybe it's a little bit too much chaos. So like, yeah, like for most of close-up view. let's go and, because I like the really chaotic one, but currently that one. Let's go, let's see here. Yeah, let's get like a little tiny bit of displacement going on. And of course, what we also could do is to get an attribute blur on the position after that, or a smooth, or the resample on subdivision curves. Yeah, that's a little better. But of course, you can then smooth it out, for example. And the cool thing is what you can do, you can get that, for example, into proxies and layer that on top of another. And then you can use that to render. Yeah, that looks much more organized. That currently reminds me of like a pattern drawing. But of course, when you then switch like your point of view, for example, when you come side here, that looks also cool. Let's go for that shot here. And let's do one more iteration on. You can just sometimes, what I also do, go through the normal presets. And then adjust them. Maybe introduce a little bit of metalness, but make it a little bit more rough. Let's get a little bit more roughness. And sometimes really like more of simplified ramps can get better results. So I hope you liked that tutorial, and if the future we can of course expand that then with animation, more R&D, etc. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I wish you already a happy new year, really nice holidays or a vacation over the Christmas days, etc. And yeah, get good with a curious mind in the new year. And of course, I will then see you in the next Patreon tutorial. So, cheers!